Hey guys, what's up? What's going on? And welcome back to the channel. I have a nice day and a little bit of daylight, so I wanted to come out here and get a little bit of work done on a dually. Gonna start off with doing the lower ball joints. This is the way that I put the other side in because of the ball joint press being messed up. I put a bottle jack underneath of there. I stacked some steel in between the bump stop and the frame, and I'm using the weight of the truck. Now I do have to hit this with a hammer just a little bit, but I'm using the weight of the truck, a couple of bottle jacks, and everything to put it in there. So that's how I was able to do the other side without having a ball joint press. Alright, as you can see, I did mar that up just a little bit. You can have your block on top of there until that gets up to where it's flush, but this one has to come up above to be able to accept this clip. Right here, just like this. That's the old one. I'm not going to put it in. Go get the new clip, put it in, touch that up with some paint, and be good to go and start next on the upper control arm. All right, I put the clip on and the greaser in on the top of the ball joint. That's all ready to go. Touch that up with some paint. I did put the upper control arm in place, and this is what I was talking about the other day. This is how your camber is adjusted on this truck here. Those frame holes are slotted to be able to adjust that camber. So right now I'm gonna put it about right where it was, is in the center of each hole. That'll be, I guess, give me a good baseline, a good starting point. I'll get these tightened up, and then I'll grab the knuckle and put it on. I'll get the sway bar end link and put it in place, and then we can start putting other stuff on. As far as brakes, it really goes along pretty quick once you get to this point right here. Getting it apart is the worst part of this job. So I'll get these bolts tightened up, and then we'll grab the knuckle, put it on, sway bar end link, and we got to get the drag link and tie rod end, and it's all put together. I have it in the garage back there and put everything together. All right, with the knuckle all in place and the top bolt tightened up, or nut tightened up, that's a nylon nut, so just make it tight. I did get both those tight and where I think it should be, not 100% certain. I won't know until I go get it aligned. The bottom bolt, or the bottom nut on the ball joint, is a nylon nut, or I'm sorry, not a nylon nut, it's a castle nut, so it'll take a cotter pin, just put it in there and bend the one end over and the other end up just a little bit, just like that, and that keeps that from backing out. Now I can go get my tie rod end and drag link and put it in place and put it on, and then I'll bring my sway bar end link down, or my sway bar down, and put it on its end links. I'm gonna have to get it aligned on both sides because I have the other side off too, so I'm able to raise this up and lower it down. All right, if you remember right, I measured the old one before I took it all apart. I had this one all put together, measured up to 17 inches. From the center of the stud to the end of the nut or the flange that actually screws in the rack and pinion. So I do want to put just a little bit of anti-seize on that. Alright, get that good and tight. And then this also has a cotter pin in it. Alright, well let me be the first to tell you that I screwed up on the sequence of actually the way I did the other side. And I realized that once I got it tight and got the cotter pin in, you know, I just put the tie rod end in there. I got it all tightened up and put the cotter pin in. But in reality, I should have put this unit bearing on first. It would have been a lot easier because I'm able to take that knuckle and turn it both ways without having to go inside the truck and turn the steering wheel to tighten up these 3 bolts. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the unit bearing on and get it torqued up, get it tightened up, and then we can move on from there doing the brake. I put anti-seize in those holes instead of putting it on the threads, because as I push it through, it'll pick that anti-seize up and I don't get it all over the place. Now make sure your sensor is facing forward. And on this truck here, there is 2 different size bolts. There's long ones and short ones. The top bolt is the long one, and you can just tell that by the back, looking at the back side of the knuckle. Alright, with the bearing tightened up, we can turn our attention to the brakes. You can see what I'm talking about right there. You can see the anti-seize on the end of that bolt. It actually pulled it all the way through. A bunch of it globbed on there. That way I don't have to worry about it getting all over my fingers, because I don't know if you guys have ever used anti-seize or not. I'm sure most of you have. If you're watching this, you know that once you get it on your fingers, on your gloves, it's harder than heck to get off. Go grab a brake rotor, put it on there, and then we can put the caliper on, and we're gonna have to do adjustment. As you can see, it's getting dark out. I don't know how much more time I'm gonna have, but you can see how that's turned in just a little bit, so I don't quite have this side long enough, and I do have this side straight right here. So we're gonna have to do just a little bit of adjustment on the steering before we can actually take it out there. I'll eyeball it, and then also I will go ahead and make the steering wheel straight and get it as close as I can. They will do that also when I have it aligned. You can see how the steering wheel is off to the driver's side, and I have that side for the most part eyeballed pretty straight. What I'll actually do is take and turn it so that's straight, and then we'll get everything lined up good, eyeballed, so we can drive it out to the alignment shop. That side's still fairly straight, and that side's still just in ever so much. I don't know that much about alignment, but from what they tell me, or from what I've saw, you actually want them tires to turn in just a little bit. I don't know why, but it must be something to do with how the vehicle tracks down the road. I just have heard that. I don't know if there's 100% truth to it or not. With the rotor in place, I want to make sure and clean that off good. These are oiled from the factory. I'm gonna grab a couple of the dually adapter nuts, and just to hold it in place to put the brakes on. Alright, that's in place. Like I said, I just have a couple of the dually converter nuts holding that in place. Went and grabbed the new brake rotor, or brake caliper and bracket. Got to get that done, or taken off, so we can put the bracket in place. All right, with your caliper bracket on, you can go ahead and put your slides on. Put some brake lube on your slides. and then put your pads in place. And with the pads on, you can go ahead and put your rotor in. Alright, the next thing I have to do is I got to take that brake line off of that old brake caliper and put it over here on the new one. But when I take it off, I need to clean it up just a little bit where these copper crush washers go. I'll wire brush the bottom of it and make sure that copper crush washer up is there. And then I'll wire brush the top of it and make sure that copper crush washer up is there. And then put everything on and put it together. So I think for right now, tonight, that's pretty much gonna do it. As you can see, I'm starting to lose daylight. The last thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and hook up that brake caliper and pretty much call it a night, go and eat some supper, and then tomorrow, hopefully it's not raining tomorrow, we're supposed to have some rain. I will address getting everything aligned up as far as the steering so we can drive it out and get it aligned and get this thing back on the ground. I gotta bleed the brakes. I did get fuel filters. I got to get those changed on the second gen also. I have one of the old HD red tops, so it's kind of hard. You got to order filters in. A lot of places do not have them in stock. One of the local diesel shops, Cat Customs over by Knoxville, he usually tries to keep these in stock for me, but this time he was just out of them, so he had to order them in. And I'm going to have to get those changed out tomorrow too. Cold weather's coming and I don't want a fuel filter freeze up, so I always try and change my fuel filters right around the November area and also start running the anti-gel. So anyway guys, if you don't mind, hit that like button, give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not already done so, and we'll see you guys later on. Bye bye.